We talk a lot on this show about showing up as your best, on the job, at home, and for your team. But you can't pour from an empty cup. The Recharge Room gives first responders access to tools that actually work. Infrared sauna, cold plunge, red light therapy, and vagus nerve stimulation to knock you out of fight or flight and into real recovery. This was built for us by people who understand our world. Check it out at rechargeroom.io. Light Touch is a non-medical wellness device designed to support calm, regulation, and more restful sleep in the midst of everyday stress. For first responders and other high-stress professionals, it offers a simple way to support steadier functioning, recovery, and overall well-being. To learn more, check out episode 317 or visit mylighttouch.com. The views and opinions expressed by the host and guests of this show do not represent their employing agency, department, or organization. All information should be regarded as anecdotal, contextual, and educational, and should not be misinterpreted as legal or medical advice. Welcome to Blue Grit Radio, the podcast that explores making better cops for a better community. I'm your host, Eric Tung. I've been an active police officer since 2007. We will dive into the aspects of police culture, health and wellness, leadership, and mindset. You'll hear from experts not only from policing, but all industries as they relate to being our best with purpose, passion, and positivity. Join me as we share stories, lessons, and advice so we can all be better for ourselves, our teams, our families, and our communities. All right, welcome back, everyone. We're talking about physical health, mental health all the time, and we're going to talk about some key tools and insights that affect all of this. We affect our performance, and that's recovery, right? We can talk about working out, we talk about eating right, but if we're not sleeping, if we're not resting, if we're not actually priming our systems to rebuild the appropriate way, then it's kind of all for naught. And that's something that I learned the hard way in my late 20s, early 30s. And so I'm very excited to bring on Rich Ganley today to the conversation. Rich, thanks so much for joining us.
Eric, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here with the Blue Grit Radio.
Yeah, thank you so much. And a shout out to a big connector that we both know very closely, Matt Donmiancic, the tactical chaplain he's been mentioning you in the Dr. Seeger's work for quite some time, saying, hey, I just say the word and I'll get them on. And I was like, yeah, my schedule's stacked, but it's always been something I keep a note. I'm like, these are the gentlemen I need to have on here soon to talk about this topic.
Well, it's a fun topic to talk about, and it's something that's so critical for everybody. So I'm excited to dig into it with you, Eric.
Yeah, thanks so much. Well, Rich, why don't we just start with a little introduction about yourself and how you came into this work? You know, when you talk about everything you're doing with the Recharge Room and all this technology that, a decade ago or more, people would have labeled as biohacking. And I think that it's a term that's accepted very different ways, but now there's more and more credibility, and it's essentially on the edge of mainstream, the kind of things we're talking about today.
Yeah, for sure. So my story is like, I call it adversity to victory. I had like the shittiest, craziest childhood of your life and lived on my own basically since I'm 16. Went to college for a week and couldn't figure that out, and just hacked my way through life, every odd job, pots and pans washer, short order cook, and never really had any direction. And early on, I was really ashamed of that. I thought I was a big loser. And so that adversity or that shame I learned to deal with, it led me to victory by becoming a self-learner, right? And as I started just learning, like I love to read, like today I still listen to like 2 audiobooks a week. My kids say, you're cheating, Dad. That's not really reading. I'm like, I love it. You're learning. You're
It's
listening.
learning. Yeah, you're absorbing it for sure.
Yeah, totally. I'm absorbing it, right? So anyways, I got to retire, even though starting like that at the age of 39. And then I became a volunteer dad dude for my 3 kids and went to school, did whatever they said. And then after they got older, like, Dad, if you show up at school anymore, we're going to kill you. And so I got into the preventative, proactive health world, which I've always been in. I was the weirdo at 39 that got a full body MRI. And they're like, what are you, stupid? I'm like, no, if I have stage 1 cancer inside me now, I'm going to kick its butt and be proactive and stay ahead of it. If it's stage 4, I'm going to miserably die and it's going to cost millions to keep me alive. Right. So fast forward, I've been blessed as an entrepreneur now with 9 or 10 different companies. Most importantly, I've been blessed with my kids and my family. So 3 years ago, we have a little medical med spa in Gilbert, Arizona. We've been there about 9 years. And I was, after thinking about things, I came home and I started praying. I'm like, hey, God, I don't know how I'm still alive growing up the way I did. Number one. Number two, thanks for all the blessings in business. But more importantly, all three of my kids grew up to be great kids
Hmm.
and they married amazing spouses. I have four grandkids and I got six. And I'm like, what can I do at this stage of my life to give back? Right. And all of a sudden, 3 days later, I get a call from the town of Gilbert, Arizona. And they go, the city manager, the town manager wants to meet you. I thought we were in trouble at the med spa. So I'm like Googling city manager, right?
What happened there?
He's like the person in charge of the whole thing, right? So we get together and he says, look, I've got about 2,000 employees and we need a lot of help, but I really'd like you to think about my public safety personnel. I didn't even know what he was talking about.
Hmm.
I'm just a regular civilian, right? So I started Googling and learning what the adversity the men and women in law enforcement and public safety, fire service and others go through. And my heart like broke open to want to help. But when I found out that the average first responder dies 15 years before a normal civilian, they have 6 to 8 times more cancer, 5 to 6 times more cardiovascular events, and PTSD. We lose more first responders to suicide than on
Yep.
the job. And I was like, I want to help. And I was studying what I call the synergy of togetherness. This is about 3 years ago. And science calls it sort of biostacking, right? And I've always had this thing teamwork makes the dream work as an entrepreneur. So I use that same theory and how do we preventatively and proactively help enhance human capital, so to say. And I was studying this tactic for a rapid recovery protocol for the WWE, which my son-in-law happens to be a wrestler in. And so my heart went, wait a minute. Why do rich guys and elite athletes get this? Why not our heroes, our industrial athletes? So in Gilbert, I didn't mean to do a business or anything. I donated 3 full recharge rooms, which includes we'll talk about today
Hmm.
multimodalities of red light, vagus nerve stim, sound healing, sauna, and cold therapies and different
Yeah.
tactics, rapid stress recovery tactics, different things like that. And we donated a full recharge room to a fire station, to a police station, and to their like really state of the art brand new public safety training facility. And we made them an app that they can use to check in, check out. We partnered up with universities to create IRB, like legit survey questions that we get feedback from, right? So, anyways, we donate all this to Gilbert. Say, we love you guys and God bless the first responders. And like 3 months later, they call me up and they're like, hey, we need to meet. And so we met and they go, these results are incredible. After 1,000 people, 78% are saying they're sleeping better.
Hmm.
86% said they're experiencing less chronic aches and pains. 81% said they're experiencing less emotional misery and anxiety and stress. And so then the city of Glendale, Arizona called me. And my buddies grabbed me and they're like, dude, and because 3 other cities called, and they're like, okay, you have giftitis. You can't give it away to cities. So my nickname is Group Hug Ganley. So I formed the Positive Impact Alliance because my title, Eric, I used to be like the CEO or the founder or whatever. For 20 years now, I've been the PI, which is like you're a commander, I'm a PI. I'm a Positive Impact Executive, that stands for. And so, anyways, we formed the Positive Impact Alliance, and it's a group hug of private, public like you, academic and nonprofit, all of us working together to see how we can improve the life, happiness, and health on the job, off the job, and into retirement of our public safety heroes. So that's where it kind of started. And it's just me and a retired commander from Gilbert PD, Kenny Buckland, who was dumb enough to become a town council person now. And we don't market, we don't sell, we're kind of like just, what's the best thing to do? And we're now in over 30 locations in 6 states. And we're now considered to have the largest living database of IRB, if you will, or legitimate cross corroborated different location statistics on what happens when we proactively try to enhance our human capital and prevent and reduce all of the costs and negativities that happen in this type of job. So
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. Because and you know what? My last 3 years of my life have been like I used to because I retired young. I retired when I was 39. And, I've always been then, sort of like not having to be there. I haven't left Arizona a couple of times in the last 3 years. My heart has been so into it, and we're having so much fun, and this technology keeps evolving, and things are even coming out that are even gonna kick it up another notch. So, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for the crash course. And I have a lot of places I want to go. And we will get to the actual technology and the different resources that you feature in the recharge room because I know that the listeners are going to want to hear about each of those and the why, right? And then what they can take with them. But I do want to go back to, your personal story, and I think that we all ought to reflect on story when we talk about things like recovery and resilience. Like these are, all these R words. Like we say them a lot, but I don't think that we really give credit to what they're really speaking on or where we're really trying to go with it. And I love how you reflect on your adversity, and I hear this gratitude with it. And I was revisiting this concept of anti fragility, and really the key being one of the main keys being gratitude. But what was featured in that discussion was not just like I'm grateful for my health and I'm grateful for my family and all these great things in my life and that should get me through my annoying, headache day. No, but it's like you are grateful for all the conflict, all the strife, all the adversity, all the things that you had to endure and you got to endure to build up and strengthen who you are today. Like you wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be here if not for all the hardship, right? And so I think that's a powerful thing.
You mentioned Chaplain Matt.
Mhm.
He's a prime example of, going through adversity, turning it into victory, and in my humble opinion, the only way in my life that that's worked is when I have gratitude and I'm serving others, and for me, it's kinda cool and probably for all of you in your jobs is to do things that really matter, right? And, yeah, so, yeah, it's because, man, when we get to know each other brother brother, my life has been like, a shitstorm,
Yeah.
and I finally got on the right track, and, you know, it's I feel very blessed, and at this stage, I'm now in my 60s. Like, when I cough now, Eric, dust comes out. It sucks.
No, not it would be if not for the recharge room, but
Oh, yeah.
we'll
Mine's
get
just
to that.
pure, beautiful oxygen.
I do wanna ask you and revisit this word and this concept proactive, right? We say that a lot in policing, like proactive policing, but really it's, "Hey, there's a crime spike, so let's put some effort toward it." That's not proactive at all. And a lot of times we talk about first responders and we think about the word response, but a lot of time it's reacting, right? And so the difference between responding and reacting is something I'm reflecting on a lot lately. So
Mm.
I'd like to get your thoughts on proactive. When we look at proactive effort and specifically what you're trying to do in helping the first responder community, helping these specific police communities, paying it forward, what are some things that come to mind there?
Well, there's an old saying, there's 3 kinds of people in the world, right? There's people that make it happen, there's people that watch it happen, and there's people wondering what the hell happened.
Mm,
So, in my mind, proactive means with knowledge, like if I'm in a high exposure position, as an example, right? What things can I do to proactively cut back the chances that's going to kill me, right? So in life, if my goal is I want to have a health, not, I don't want longevity as much as I want health span, right? Like I don't want to be in my 90s and dribbling out, can't even know who you are, but I want to be in my 90s like, hey, I'm still good, right? Health span. So in order to do that, different jobs expose us to different levels of stress. And what I found out about public safety is mental, emotional, family, physical. The average first responder, I hear different numbers, but somebody told me they see like 1,200 ish, critical incidences in a career. I'm lucky if I don't see like two of them. Right. So
yeah.
all of those accumulated, if you're in patrol all day long, every call is just weighting you down in your backpack. Some people have to drive around 30 minutes before they even go home, right? Reacting again. So
Mhm.
if we could come up with ways to give our men and women tactics and tools to proactively, you know, avoid or improve or kick ass on these things that kick ass on public safety,
Yeah.
why not? And if we can use non-drug, non-pharmacological, science validated decades and decades of history of what these types of tactics or modalities, we'd call them, or tools do, that would be pretty cool. And that's sort of the whole basis in my mind on what can I do now? Make it happen, right? I want to make it happen. Or Mel Robbins, right? Who caused all this controversy over cold plunging, which I've talked to Seeger about at some point, right? I love her book, The 5 Second Rule, because we procrastinate. So when I can count, the reason NASA goes 10, 9, 8, because when you get to zero, they got to take off. So
Hmm.
same thing with the 5 second rule. I go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bam, make that decision, go for it, right?
Yeah.
Get your ass out of bed, get to the gym, right? These are all things you're proactively, hopefully doing. But what else can you do from a cellular internal level to even, you know, boost that human capital?
Yeah, I love that. So you talk about biostacking and it's like layering these different modalities, right? And so maybe we'll go down the list. And I made a couple notes, and you're talking about even a more, I suppose, minimal approach like this booth. But one thing I had from, I believe, before we start recording, you're talking about the grounding mat, and I mentioned grounding before, and it's part of something that I try to incorporate in my life. But yeah, let's talk about grounding first. What is that?
So one of the so in the Positive Impact Alliance, we formed the Science and Medical Advisory Board, and one of our advisors is a guy named Clint Ober, and he's like 70, probably 8 years old, and the guy spent like I don't know, like $7 million over the last 20 years legitimizing what is grounding, right?
Mm,
And he's the founder of Earthing.com. So, I'll defer that question to him. Next. No, I'm just
yeah.
kidding. So, basically, it's kind of weird, but it's simple. It's we used to connect with the earth a lot more, and the earth has a lot of positive aspects to our human body, right? And
Hmm.
so when you hear go out in the morning barefooted into the grass, the reason you do that is it grounds your body, dumps all the junk you don't need from an energy standpoint out of you, and helps you in many ways emotionally, mentally, and from a sleeping standpoint. So, we now as humans are walking around on rubber shoes all the time. We're never barefoot ever hardly, right? We don't
Hmm.
often go outside and just sit out, unless you're a proactive person that, a lot of people you hear, you get up in the morning, go out in the morning sun, 5 minutes even, right? And just hang out in the morning sun. That's really, really good for for your circadian rhythm and a lot of
Yeah.
things. So, but nevertheless, so grounding is that simple. So a grounding mat is something you'd stand on. Grounding sheets are sheets that you could put on your bed, right? And those are basic grounding modalities. So, as an example, in fire service, we have a mission Clint is giving away for free, bless his heart, to help public safety. We have a mission to ground every fire station, which means on the XL twin beds they sleep in their bunks, those will now have grounding sheets on them. So now this person with this high intensity job
Hmm.
can be a little more grounded and could do it really easily. So that's basically grounding. In the recharge room, we use a mat that you stand on, and we combine that when you talk about biostacking. I called it the synergy of togetherness. Teamwork makes the dream work. And because I'm from an entrepreneurial world, and in companies, that's the secret, right? If
Yeah.
you can just have obsessed with service, not only for your customer, but be obsessed with service for your team. And that's why I'm the pie. A positive impact executive is a leader who leads with transparency and love and family work-life balance and encouragement and education and real stuff instead of fake stuff, right? And you just give your employees the tools they need to excel, right? So in the recharge room, we biostack. So because time's important. So in the recharge booth, or station number one in the recharge room, is a 4 modality stack. So I'm going to be standing on a grounding mat. I'm going to be surrounded by two full body red light commercial panels. So there's 2 modalities. And I'm going to be wearing this special headset that's a vagus nerve stimulator, which we'll talk about. And I'm doing sound healing and vagus nerve. So in a 10 to 15-minute session, I'm doing a lot of things from my cellular person, from my muscular, ligamental, bone health, circulatory health, reduction of inflammation, all these things that science has proven like beyond a shadow of a doubt. So
Yeah.
that's station. So red light maybe next.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for starting with grounding, and I will say, I was introduced to it quite a while ago doing going down the holistic rabbit holes, but I've joked many times about how when I was burned out trying to ground, standing outside in the cold, bare feet on the grass while, like, throwing kettlebells around because I was, sleep deprived. No, that's not the thing, but there is something to that, right? Connecting with the earth. You point out how we wear shoes, we're in concrete buildings and walking around on pavement. And there is something to the fact that even for those that are skeptical, our bodies run off electricity, right? And so when you think about offloading some of that junk, it's very much a thing. And I mean, it's kind of connected to the idea of tree hugging in a way, right? You can touch nature that is connected back to the earth. So thank you for covering that. Yeah, let's go to red light. I know that that's something that probably more people are familiar with than grounding. You see different ads, but yeah,
Yeah.
what are we talking about, and how do you discern quality there and what we're going for?
So red light has been studied for a long time. I think it really got put on the map a few decades ago, maybe 40 years ago by NASA. They had a guy in space, an astronaut. Somehow that person got a cut and it wasn't healing really good in space. So some smart scientists said, let's send up photobiomodulation to space and what we now call red light therapy. That's the simple. The formal name's photobiomodulation, red light therapy. And it's red light because you could see the red light with your eyes. It's at
Mm,
a nanometer or spectrum of the sun, a healthy spectrum. And the infrared or near far or the infrared light, you can't see with your eyes. And that goes down even deeper to your bone level. Okay. And let's explain. So when I first started looking at red light therapy about 5 years ago, because I've always been into proactive preventative tactics that give me more health span, right?
mhm.
And there were 2,500 published peer-reviewed studies showing how it was good for Alzheimer's, dementia, traumatic brain injuries. Sports started using it for reduction of inflammation, circulatory benefits, right? The big one it does is it hits what's called your mitochondria. So let's say in your car, your engine is called your mitochondria. Fuel you're going to put in your car is called your ATP. So as you're a human and you age into your 40-ishes, or if you're under a lot of stress, like no law enforcement person probably ever is, right? Your
No way. Yeah.
ATP starts pooping out. So what you want to do is figure out how you can boost that because that's going to fight things and help your cells be healthier. So the other big thing red light does is it gets through your mitochondrial, activates your ATP. So now you have cellular regenerative energy, you've got circulatory benefits, you've got reduction of inflammation, bone, ligamental, muscular health. From a cranial standpoint, right, they're using cranial photobiomodulation now for Alzheimer's slowing and dementia. And because, hello, it reduces inflammation and helps circulation. And so that's why athletes use it. So in law enforcement, it's a physical, right? And you guys are carrying a lot of weight all the time. And so you end up eventually after maybe I don't know how many years in a career, these chronic aches and pains,
Hmm.
these physical things that you just deal with, right? Ibuprofen, lidocaine, right? Well, what if there's a way that you can not have to depend on that as much and you could use a simple tactic that would do all these things that red light can do for you, right? So they set up, they'd say the analogy of it was a pill, it'd be like a $6 billion pharmacological pill. But the good news, it's just the healthy rays of the sun. And it's kind of weird. You just stand there. At first, I was like, this is stupid. And that's why we did multimodalities, because I got bored sitting there doing nothing for 10 minutes. I'm like, I hate this, right? So, but that's red light. You stand there, it absorbs into your skin. So the more skin, the better quality. So part of the problem is there's now 10,000 plus peer-reviewed published studies. Dr. Michael Hamblin, who's out of Harvard, is the grandfather of this area and has published many texts and does a lot of work on brain health through red light. Good luck. So you see an ad, hey, buy our red light panel. That's incredible. Well, it probably comes from China, repackaged into some brand that'll never answer the phone again when you call them if you have a breakdown. But more importantly, red doesn't mean it's really red light therapy.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
there's nanometers and there's third part because everybody tells you their product's the best. Like you and me are in the same boat, probably. People pitching us products all the time or want to get in front of our teams, right? And it's like, no, where's the evidence? Third party, validated, tested, battle proven results, right? So that's what we look for. And we're lucky with the recharge rooms. I mean, there's an old saying, if you want to see if something can be broken, give it to a firefighter. So the
Or a
equipment we're
SWAT team
using,
member.
yes, one of you guys, right? So so you have to look for, in my opinion, if you're buying it for yourself, residential, grade stuff is fine. We use all commercial grade, obviously, in the public sector, but third party evidence, how long they've been in business, use your AI technology and do some real deep dives on, how long they've been around, what's their Reddit comments about, other things like this, tactics you can use. It's like doing an investigation, probably. You guys can do it better than anybody. So do your homework. Don't just buy that red light panel that the wife says looks good on Amazon or you think looks good on some, Instagram deal you get.
Yeah, for sure. Are there recommendations as far as duration of exposure, assuming this is a quality product that someone's gotten?
Totally. Yeah. So when you have the right product, it's legitimate, photobiomodulation or legitimate red light, 10 minutes, 5 days a week, 10 minutes, 3 days a week, 10, 15 minutes. So the sweet spot is between 10 and 15 minutes per session. There's a diminishing return. So, like experts in the industry will tell you that, you don't have to do it 7 days a week, right? So the sweet spot is usually between 2 to 5 days, depending on your accessibility to it, and 10 minutes. Like me, I do it 5 days a week, 10 minutes every day
Yeah,
on the days I do it, and just 10 minutes. In fact,
very
in
doable.
city halls now, we're using this first modality in the full recharge room only. We call it the recharge booth. And so, like in public servant areas or admin areas or dispatch areas, right? There's this tactic they now can use for a rapid stress recovery and and mental health tactic. And they walk out after 10 minutes like, I love my job again. That last 911 call didn't kill me and I feel better. Right. And so that's station number one, red light. And then the really cool one that I think is incredible because there's so many other ways we can use it in public safety, especially in policing, is in patrol and other tactics. And I'll explain that. So the vagus nerve. So while you're standing on the grounding mat and you're
Hmm.
surrounded by the two full body red light panels, you're going to wear a headset. It's really a good headset too. It's got Bluetooth. You can play tunes or any frequencies you want or meditation, whatever, positive affirmation. I can listen to your podcast, right? Whatever. But what it really does, it's magical. It has these two these gel tips down here that stimulate my vagus nerve. So what's the vagus nerve? Okay. So real quick story. There was a kid who grew up in Gilbert, Arizona, actually. And like 7, 8 years ago, he got graduated, thought he'd be the next Tiger Woods. And they got a scholarship and he gets out there and he starts doing pretty good. But then he freaks out. He panics. He has like stage fright and he lost his scholarship.
Hmm.
And he decides to go to Arizona State University to study the brain. And he becomes like a PhD in you can't even pronounce it, like neuromicrobiology, right? And he creates the world's first ever non-invasive vagus nerve stimulator. They used to implant them in severe PTSD or
Hmm.
anxiety or situations where you need constant balancing of your vagal tone, it's called. So Dr. Nick Cool now creates this fob, wins a contest like over MIT and Harvard. First time in ASU's history, they win $100,000. Nick takes the money and opens up his own company called Coolest, HOOLEST.com. And he was selling these key fob things like crazy as a rapid stress recovery tactic because when you do this, your pulse rate goes down in 3 to 5 minutes. Your pulse rate goes down, your heart rate goes down, your variable heart rate goes up, and you go into what's called full parasympathetic. So the
Hmm.
vagus nerve, it's this simple. It's your 10th cranial nerve. It's a bidirectional nerve, which is very important. In Latin, vagus means wanderer, and they call it the wanderer nerve because it touches all your organs, right? And it only has two tones. You're either in sympathetic, which is fight or flight. Let's say you got a call right now and respond, you go into fight or flight. You are hypervigilance. You get stuck in that. That's called sympathetic. Stuck in sympathetic, which most public safety personnel are. Most
Yep.
humans are, to be honest with you, right? You want to be in for your organs and everything, your mind. You want to be in parasympathetic or rest and digest. So this simple non-drug, easy to use tactic is a rapid stress reduction or down regulating tactic to use immediately. The quickest way too, by the way, you could do yoga, but that takes 20, 30 minutes, right? I could take freaking Xanax, but that's not good. And it takes 30
Right.
minutes to get kicking in probably, right? I could do breath work, but this is the most rapid tactic that we've been able to find for down regulation. And it also has a really nice boost. Most fire chiefs have one at their house. Not they have the headsets, and a lot of officers now use these 24/7 because it's just a simple, easy tactic I can use, right? So the vagus nerve is critically important, especially in law enforcement. And sound, I mean, we don't have to, I mean, sound's been around. You listen to soothing music, you feel better, right? You
Hmm.
listen to certain frequencies, you sleep better. This is all neurological science.
Yep.
And I think that's the bar we set. Because a lot of this stuff back when I started was like hooky pooky, and Eastern only. And really, it's this synergy. Again, we combine Western and Eastern together. That gives us the power. And then we try to look for easy to use, proactive tactics that are non drug, non addictive. Well, cold plunge is a little addictive. Tactics we could use to really enhance our human capital.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that step-by-step progression. You hit it all, and a couple things I kind of want to rewind back to or connect all these concepts. A couple things, going back to the red light, for those that heard it, 10, 15 minutes a couple times a week or several times a week, that's very doable. And I've said this many times, I'll say it again. For people that say they don't have time, pull up your phone and show me your screen time average per day, because mine is atrocious. I'm sure yours is too, right? So it's just a recognized opportunity. We can take time. We just need more intention, right? So time is time. We just need more intention. But with that, more is not better. So don't just fall asleep in front of the thing. If 10 and 15 minutes sounds really long, then maybe you do need to be bored. Maybe we could all benefit from being a little bit bored at times. But I also like even combining some of these things, right? You talked about how, yes, breath work can be a thing, but for other people, sitting and doing breath work in a busy day might not be quite as feasible, right? Grounding in the middle of your shift, taking your boots off and walk around barefoot, that's probably not feasible unless you're a firefighter. You have a nice garden out back, right next to the burn tower. So of course you got to appreciate the firefighter jokes. But all things said, maybe on a day off you recognize you're taking a hike, you're getting outside, you're getting some sun on the plenty sunny days we get in the Pacific Northwest, and even doing this in hiking, maybe you're leaning on a tree as you gain your footing. And so you're getting a little bit of grounding here and there, right? And I've even heard, hey, it doesn't have to be your feet. Like do some push ups on your jog, on that nice, freshly cut lawn and get some of that connection back to the earth and offload that, electromagnetic junk, as you put it. So, yeah, there's a lot of ways that we can think about this. Yes, top tier technology is definitely something I would like to work towards for myself and my agency and region. But outside of that, there are things that we can control and ways that we can start to stack these things up.
But well said. And I love the way you tie it back into we all do have the time. And, I'm guilty. I had to look at my screen time. I'm probably embarrassed, right? And so taking time for yourself. So speaking of that, the next station in the recharge room, it's funny you led into it like that, is actually 20 minutes and an infrared sauna.
Hmm.
So at first it's like, well, what are we building a country club? And, taxpayers are going to think we're full of like beans. Well, no, actually, it's one of the most important tactics we could use for many different reasons. We'll go over really quickly on what heat therapy does for us and why, again, elite athletes and health span experts are looking and using these tactics. In fact, there just came out recently, maybe in the last year, Eric, it was a 20-year Finnish study that studied people who sauna. They've saunaed a lot, like 5 days a week, right?
Yeah,
5 to
yeah.
6, right? And this is in Finland, 20 years. And when they published the results like recently, everyone was amazed. That's why saunas have blown up so much. There was
Mhm.
a 50%, I think, maybe it's 45 or 52, I forgot, but it's a big improvement in all-cause mortality, which means less stuff you die from, and
Yeah.
then there was a big improvement, 45%-ish, in cardiovascular health by just sitting in a sauna and heat.
Yeah.
So, station number 1's the booth. Station 2 is the 20 minutes in the sauna. There's a commander, Kim Gerard from Gilbert, Arizona, and she's been in law enforcement for 30 some odd years. I think she was the first female police officer somewheres in Michigan, in fact, and then retired out to Gilbert. She says that one of the big things she loves about the recharge room is she gets to sit in peace because she's in meetings all day and shit's hitting the fan. Now she gets to go sit in peace for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And while she's sitting in peace, we do have in the sauna Bluetooth. So again, you can have sound therapy. We have what's called chromotherapy lighting, which is just basically different spectrums. It's more on the grounding end of Eastern. The spectrums of light do certain things for your chakras or
Mhm.
your body, let's just call it, right? We don't have to get into that today. But when you're sitting into the sauna, what else is happening? An infrared sauna. So a lot of people have a question probably. Well, should I get a regular sauna or an infrared sauna? Yes, is the answer. Either
Yeah.
one. And
Yeah.
what's the difference? A regular traditional sauna heats the ambient air into 225, whatever, and you get in, it's like, "Whoa, looking hot," right? You can't
Mhm.
touch the wall with your back maybe, and so that's a regular sauna, but it's really good because it's heating up your body, which is gonna cause a lot of vasal activity, and it's gonna increase your heart rate, which is a cardiovascular workout, and it's gonna do a lot of things as far as decom and purging and getting junk, and we'll talk about what kind of junk out of your body, right? So, but the reason we use an infrared sauna is it's even a more science sort of focused way to do it, where this, instead of heating the outside air, the light again, the light you can't see, infrared, that's what I call infrared sauna, that goes through your skin and heats you from the inside out.
Hmm.
So you're even getting a deeper in scientist at mine. Again, I'm not a scientist. Remember, I only went to college for a week, so make sure you check out anything. I
You got it done in 1 week? That's impressive. Look at that efficiency,
you know what? That adversity though helped me in my life. So,
right?
but so the sauna is like pretty cool, and it's so simple, and it really does help you take time for yourself. I call it put your feet up on the desk time. CEOs that I'll coach sometimes, and it's like, oh, I'm so busy, I'm working 12 hours a day, I can't get anything done. Like, take 10 minutes, 30 minutes, put your feet up on a desk, do nothing, and just relax. And you'll get way more done than you're going to get done at a much better, healthier way, right?
Mhm.
So in the sauna, now what's really interesting, just a couple of side notes is fire service, just to point that out, they die of cancer as the number one cause. So they're exposed all the time, right? I had a police chief tell me, Colby Brandt, who's the police chief in Glendale, Arizona, amazing leader and big users out there of the recharge room. And he says, hey, we call it the canary theory in policing. I go, what are you talking
Yeah.
about? He goes, yeah, the cop gets there, and if there's a fire and the cop's dead, they put their crap on.
Yep.
And
The
that's how
blue
they,
canary. That's right.
yeah, the blue canary, right? Is that what I didn't know? And so here's a decom. So when they fight a fire, they typically smell like smoke for like 2 to 3 days. No matter what they could do, now have tactics. Now they decom on site. They have 2 turnouts now. They take them all on site, decom on site, drive back clean, decom before they go into living quarters, and that's helping. And in fact, on our advisory council, on our website's rechargeroom.io, and we have a science and medical advisory council. There's a Doc Burgess at the University of Arizona. 30 years now, he's been an expert in reducing exposure for cancer for fire service and mining industry. And so just kind of keep that in mind as we progress on decalming your body. So usually they stink like smoke for 2 or 3 days. These 2 captains, like 2 years ago, did a fire, said, let's go do a recharge room. We just love the way it makes us feel. And they get done, and the one guy's like, dude, you don't smell like smoke. The other guy's like, you don't smell like, dude, don't say
Mm.
nothing. And they both went home, and both of their spouses were like, I thought you had a fire today. And they used to charcoal soap 10 showers, they stink like smoke, right?
Yeah.
So the doctors started talking. They go, Rich, we think it's your weird synergy of togetherness thing. Because what happens, remember, the red light is going to get our cells going, reduce inflammation, get circulation going. The vagus nerve is going to organize my organs into rest and digest. Now my body is more prepared to have a more purposeful purge because Dr. Burgess about 7 years ago did a sauna only in Scottsdale Fire Department, and it was inconclusive. They still smelled like smoke. So now when they do this stack, this is where biostack 1 plus 1 equals 10. When they do this stack now, they don't smell like smoke. So now we're starting studies, Eric, that's going to show the PFH, whatever the levels are, PAH levels, post fire, post recharge, and see if we're really getting a meaningful reduction, which we think we are, but we're not
Mm,
sure
yeah.
in that. So I would say that's what the sauna does. Also, Harvard just recently came out with studies that are pretty powerful that shows that people with anxiety and neurological challenges and emotional challenges, when they heat the human body up and you come down from that sauna, if you will, that it has a very positive effect on resiliency
Mm,
and calming. So the other thing, saunas have been used around sweat lodges, right? And they've been used
yeah.
for calming and
Yeah.
relaxing and mental health benefits like crazy on top of all of the physical or physiological benefits that I mentioned about it. So 10 minutes in the recharge booth, 20 minutes in the sauna. Any sauna discussions before we move to what most people think is the hardest position in the
Yeah.
room?
No, and we'll get into that next chunk right here in a second. But you talk about East and West and these approaches, and what's old is new. I mean, these modalities and these practices were cross cultural, East and West. You track it back long ago,
Yeah.
and they knew it to be true, and now we're just using science to prove it to be true, right? Like what our grandparents knew as far as ailments and nutrition. You call it the chakra to support the spleen and digestion or whatnot. Now we just have more data that is, convincing I guess our current day minds. But I love that it's all coming together. So yeah, let's go for the uncomfortable. And I'm sure a lot of people heard it before. They're gonna anticipate what you're gonna end with.
And by the way, just a side question. Do you do Kundalini yoga? Is that why you have the snake there?
No, that snake, I actually found that, and it was kind of a nod. Last year was the year of the snake, and I was like, that was a theme I was thinking about a lot. Like, what do I want to shed? I was like, that's pretty cool. My wife is quite a yogi. She's actually going through certification now, so I am learning quite a bit more than I had ever known about the chakras and the Indian tradition and yoga. Yeah.
Yeah. That's because Kundalini is about bringing the serpent up your spine, right?
Mm,
Interesting. Okay. So I've done 20 minutes so far, right? No, I've done 30 minutes, 10 and 20.
yep.
So now the next most important thing when you get out of the sauna, do not get your dirty butt into the cold plunge. Go shower off.
Rinse,
And
rinse. Yeah.
so in most recharge rooms, we have a shower. Okay.
Nice.
So 10, 20, shower, 3 minutes now in cold water therapy. Okay.
Mm,
So we were going to have, I think you're going to be interviewing, and so there's lots of experts. One of the top experts is a Dr. Tom Seeger. He's considered like, the Andrew Huberman of cold water therapy. And Tom is a brilliant, he's on our advisory council. Tom is a brilliant expert at resiliency and all of these things related to cold, right? So why is cold water therapy part of this cycle? Well, here's why. So traditionally we watch TV and you see the football games over, the sporting events over. What's the athlete do a lot? Get in a cold bucket of ice.
hmm
Why? Well, because reduces, so here's what it does, right? It reduces inflammation. It helps with vasoconstriction, right? It helps squeeze stuff out, helps with recovery, right? It helps. The biggest thing it does is when you get in there, it shocks the heck out of you. But you're like, that's called the gasp response, right? And your pulse actually goes up for a little bit. And then and what cold therapy also does is it boosts your endorphins, like dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, things like that, by like 200 to 250%, and it lasts for like 3 to 5 hours. So we're using a lot in a post-critical incident protocol where if we need 33 minutes to help this person down-regulate and go through these tactics, or maybe we don't have a lot of time, we want a 3-minute, just a down-regulation tactic, then we can use cold therapy because it boosts and helps them now recover better, take the adversity into victory now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how traditionally cold water's been used and why it's been used for, samurais will bring Eastern in again. Thousands of years ago before battle, used to stand under freezing waterfalls because you get out of that cold plunge, you can't help but want to just go crazy and
Go crush it, right? Yeah.
just crush it, right? So recently, though, thanks to Dr. Seeger and other scientists, we found out there's other tactics to use cold to boost. So if I want to recover, I do it after physical therapy. After you don't want to do it too soon after working out because if you're looking to get a pump,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to wait about 3 hours before you're going to start cold plunging because it'll destroy what you just did, ripping and pumping.
Yeah, no, thanks for pointing that out because I think there is a hyper attention towards, even people DIY, right? Every workout, then it's like cold plunge. It's like, well, your body has some natural reaction and inflammation to build muscle. So yeah, we don't want to. Thank you for pointing that out as a tip.
Yeah, and again, there's people that are far more expert than I am at it, but I know the basics, right?
Yeah.
Like the group hugger with the modalities. So with the cold plunge, there's another tactic. You can use it to boost. So if you want to boost, you do it before working out, before jujitsu, before heavy activity, right? And why? Well, one, it boosts your workout power by about 17%. Two, it builds up your brown fat. So when we're born, we have a ton of clavicle brown fat when we're
Hmm.
kids. And brown fat's in our bodies to fight disease in our cells and fight disease, right? And as we age out to 40-ish, or if you're under a lot of stress, even younger, your body kind of poops out on brown fat. That's why you start, I need glasses, I'm aging, right? So they've done a lot of studies on does cold water therapy boost brown fat? And it does. In fact, Harvard did a study. There's this thing called the whale. I'll go quick. There's a thing called the whale theory that 100 years ago, they started studying whales that are 200 times our size, have 200 times as many cells, and they live to be like 200 years old. The average human dies, 80, let's say,
Yeah.
whatever the number is. And when we die, if they do an autopsy in our cells somewhere, there's usually cancer, right?
Hmm.
And these whales, they did an autopsy on the whales. There's no cancer after 200 years. And they said, probably because they're in this freezing cold water all the time, right? So the whale theory. So Harvard took that and did a study on cancer patients who had active cancer. And they had them do cold water tactics prior to working out to see if it would boost brown fat. And the study showed there was a 40% slowdown rate in the cancer growth because there was more brown fat. So if you want to proactively boost your power against cellular disease or cancer, that's one idea right there, right? That's brown fat. The other one is testosterone. Most of us are testosterone deficient. We're on pellets, we're on pills, we're on all the stuff, right?
Hmm.
And there's a lot of side effects of all that stuff, but you need your T level to be up at a certain level. And stress and your job pounds, testosterone down. So pick on a firefighter because so I spoke at a symposium, a cold water symposium, and there were that Dr. Seeger puts on, and there was an expert there named Sean Smiley, who's a captain in Tulare, California, fire service. And he's a captain. They were doing a training exercise. He was going down a well with full gear and harness on, and somehow something broke and they dropped and they
Mm.
grabbed it, excuse my language, and crushed his nuts.
Yeah, not
He had to
fun.
take his left testicle out, and his testosterone went from 800 down to like 110, and they put him on pellets and painkillers, and his girlfriend, after a couple of, like, weeks said, "Dude, you're gonna kill everybody. You're freaking mean." And,
Hmm.
and then they started doing jujitsu, and he got meaner, and all of a sudden, Dr. Seeger met him, and he goes, "Hey, get off the crap for just 6 months. Try this tactic of cold water therapy before working out, and see what happens. And he's telling his story and he's showing these gross pictures of his surgery. And
Oh
at
my
the end
gosh.
of his talk, I'm like, ah. And at the end of his talk, he shows his blood work. And he goes, after 7 months, my blood work for testosterone is now 800, no drugs. So if you want to boost, cold prior. If you want to recover, cold after. We have people doing physical therapy using the recharge circuit in total and coming back like 25% quicker from physical therapy. Good story. I'll just give you on the circuit. There's a Lieutenant Chris Timmons, LT, just retired after 24 years in public safety. He started a nonprofit called the PPA, which is teaching officers about what neurodivergence is and how
Mm.
to more sort of gracefully handle that. In fact, in Arizona, he just got the law changed on people's registration now. As you approach a vehicle, as you pull them up, you'll see if they're neurodivergent or not, which would
Oh
be
wow.
really, really useful, right? So, anyways, Chris was chasing a bad guy, jumped the fence, broke his back. He had a plate and pins in his back when I met him 3 years ago.
Mm.
And he was the LT in charge of human resources, hire and fire and whatever, and health and wellness. So he had to use one of them clippy things to pick up his underpants. He couldn't go to the gym and work out, because after that all happened, he just jacked up his whole body, right? And so he had a desk job now. And his life sucked. He slept bad. He's telling me all this. So he starts using the recharge rooms. This is at the beginning, right? And he starts using the recharge rooms. Like 2 months later, he calls and goes, "Hey, my wife said I'm kind of sleeping better." And then, like, fast forward, like 6 months, he goes, "Hey, I don't have to use those things anymore. And I used to put globs of lidocaine on my back and take ibuprofen by the handfuls. I'm not using those anymore." And a couple months later, he goes, "My doctor just said I could go work out again."
Oh wow.
After like 2 years of using the recharge room, the guy changed his whole body. He was happier, healthier. It inspired him. He says in his story he tells about recharge, how it inspired him and his wife to really go after this passion because they have a neurodivergent son, and Preston, his name is. So PPA is Preston's Pursuit of Acceptance. And they teach now law enforcement agencies about neurodivergency, right? So I mean, I have, like, honestly, hundreds of stories like that. People off of Ambien on days off that they used to have, mental health, more kind of ability to so cold water, it's going to give you resilience power too, right? It'll help you deal with the harder things even more effectively, right? And remember, there's like a program out there called Struggle Well. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've had a
Hmm.
member on your show, but yeah, struggle well, adversity to victory, right? And so the recharge room modalities, you can use just one of them. But again, what we've seen is all of them. So what are the results now from this happening, right? So we just recently had over 6,500 reviewed surveys now that are IRB sort of approved questions, which IRB just stands for International Review Board. And colleges, academic uses it as a way to say, yeah, these are legitimate questions done appropriately, right? So when you use the recharge room, we have an app so they first go through video training on each modality. They take a little quiz, like when you do red light therapy, do you always wear glasses, blockers, 50% of the time or none? Well, all the time, right? So, and then there's a waiver form, and now you have full access. So you check in, you check out. Every couple of times there's a pop up survey, right? So now we have the most robust database of survey results of men and women in public safety using proactive tactics to push back these bad things that happen. And the evidence is like overwhelming, like 78% are sleeping better. And I don't have it in front of me, but I'm
Yeah.
really 89% are now less chronic aches and pains. There's a question about how long will this help you work a longer career on the job? 60% are saying yes to that. And mental health, emotional health, family issues, right? 90+% yes to that. So for me, starting this as a prayer to where it's now ended up now is such a blessing. So one of the things I wanted to make sure, Chaplain Matt said that is important. I'm now out there teaching city managers and chiefs on how to go in. You're always going in asking council for money, right? and especially public safety. It's like they take 80% of our budgets. We can't do anything else for them, right? And so, what if the chief could walk in now and say, hey, instead of asking for money, I'm dragging like 10 buckets of gold behind me because by this minimal investment we're going to make in these proactive, science proven tactics with evidence past proof of concept, the return on investment is outrageous. So, as an example, in the town of Gilbert, Arizona, they have 3 recharge rooms. And those 3 recharge rooms, they said last year saved them $750,000 in retention benefits alone. And a recharge room is like $35 to $40,000 for like everything. Delivered, installed, all the training, ongoing training, the app usage, blah, 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 right? So for 120 grand, they've now saved 750,000. That's not on top of quicker back from physical therapy. So what we're able to do now is give an ROI and
Hmm.
show elected and non-elected officials and leaders, hello, like a pie does, by
Yeah.
taking better care of our people up front, proactively, right? In a purposeful way, how much money we could save taxpayers by also honoring and helping our industrial athletes be happier, healthier, and safer on the job.
Yep.
Remember, wouldn't it be nice? You don't have to drive around 30 minutes. You can go home and the wife's like, we've had cops tell me and say, honey, did you take the day off? You seem like you're in a great mood.
Yeah. No, thanks for I mean, you covered a lot. And you given so many things for people to think about whether they want to take something for themselves, something that they want to incorporate, right? Like cold exposure is free, right? Or it cut what a couple buckets of ice or a cold shower. You can start there, right? Like there's things you can do. There's grounding, which is free. But then if you want to up your game, if you want to seek grant funding, or you have a legitimately supportive council, or you're doing a station remodel, maybe these are the things you think about. 30, 40 grand is not a ton for a lot of agencies, to be frank. There's a lot of resources we're looking at, which might be helpful to this population or that population. What I like about the recharge room is it's something for everyone. It's for professional staff. It's for dispatchers. It's for people that run their body hard because of their duties or because of their fitness preferences. But it's also all these things for people that are taking it more carefully. Maybe they're older. Maybe they're already injured. So it's something that you can think about that can actually help your whole staff rather than just certain resources. And not to judge them, but certain resources are truly designed for certain populations. You talked about retention costs, and I don't want to go down to the rabbit hole, but there's a lot of, light duty. There's a lot of quiet quitting, right? There's people that are occupying seats, but they're not doing the work.
Yeah.
But how do we get them more re-engaged? How do we get them feeling well? And these are all tangible things. And so I really appreciate how you're able to summarize so many different modalities, but also true anecdotes, for teams and individuals that have really shown data backed metrics here.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm blessed because get to interact with and see all the data, obviously, and brainstorm with some brilliant people. I feel very blessed, and it is making a difference. And just a side note, we donated a recharge room to the Salvation Army recently.
Mm,
They came to us and said, "Hey, we heard what you're doing, and our staff is getting so overwhelmed as a nonprofit."
yeah.
And first, we were going to have it for their staff to use, but then their Western United States commander called me and said, "Hey, we have this thing called the ARC, the Adult Recovery Clinic, and you're
Oh,
either
okay.
court
Hmm.
ordered or you go involuntary for 6 months for addiction recovery." And so we started using this. I donated a recharge room. We started using it there, and the flipping results are like high on
Yeah.
it's helping them with recidivism, staying there longer. So yeah, back to your point, take a little time for yourself. Use things that are easy to use, that are proven and validated. And if you're in an agency and you have, any questions about it, I love just to brainstorm. I was on the phone this morning with Yuma, the county of Yuma, Arizona. We're blessed. We're in Orange County, as an example, Fire Services Union headquarters. Newport Beach is just putting us in one of their locations. We're in, I mean, gosh, we're in Prescott, Arizona, if you know any of these places, Prescott Valley. We're in Phoenix PD, Mesa PD. City of Glendale, Winnebago County Sheriff's Department in Illinois, like Rockford, Illinois, University of Kentucky PD. The list goes on. And the cool thing is, like, I'm buddies now with a lot of the chiefs, and they're like, Rich, because the command gets a dashboard for the app. So you can pull up the dashboard. It's non-identified, which is a rule of IRB, but you could see Monday through Sunday usage patterns. You
Hmm.
could see your own survey for your own city survey results. Because then you could, like Phoenix PD uses those types of statistics to get funding. Like you said, you can go to City Hall now, say, look, we put money and stuff all the time and the diminishing returns. What if we put 200 grand here and it turns into $1 million? And what if our people are happier and healthier and we're getting better citizen interaction and less, whatevers? And what if everything is just, we show a little more attention? And I think society, I was this weirdo. I first retired when I was 39. And when I retired, I got a full body MRI and people said, what are you, stupid? And I'm like, no, if I got cancer inside me at stage 1, I'm gonna kick its ass. If it's stage 4, I'm dead. So I think society's finally understanding the synergy of togetherness and really non-drug modalities and tactics. Just one more quick one with that vagus nerve stimulator. So what I learned as a civilian is patrol, I think, has it emotionally harder. That's why I see this kidding around between fire service and policing. Because when there's a critical incident, you guys show up and the fire service leaves all 4 of them in the engine. Like,
Hmm.
oh my God, you believe that? And at least they get off their chest and let's go have lunch, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I saw that eyeball, let's go eat, right? But then on your end, the patrol, she gets back into patrol by herself.
Yep.
And then the
It's on
next,
to the next one, right?
and nobody's really nice to you all day, probably, right? And
No,
hardly.
not so
So
much.
it accumulates in that backpack all day long, right? So what we do is we just take the simple key fob, and in between calls, I put it on my vagus nerve, and in 3 to 5 minutes, my pulse rate goes down, my heart rate goes down, my variable heart rate goes up, and I go into full parasympathetic. I get out of for the next stop, I'm a little bit more balanced. I'm a little lighter in my backpack of shit that happened, right? And it helps me. And it's like almost doing push-ups for your vagus nerve too. All this stuff is, if you do it consistently, you get stronger. Your human capital, your human yourself gets stronger. And it's pretty simple. So yeah, if anyone has questions, Eric, I don't know if you want me to give you like how to get in touch with me or
Yeah,
how to,
we'll have it all in the show notes, but if there's
oh,
anything you want to throw out to close, that's fantastic.
no, I just really just want to share just one analogy to close. I love to read, as I said, and I'm like an audiobook junkie. My kids tease me. They're like, that's not learning, Dad. I'm like, I love to hear the voice, right? So I read about 2 audio or listen to 2 audiobooks a week. So there was a book I listened to a long time ago, and it was about back in the revolutionary times of China and how they used to conquer each other in like the 1500s. And if you were a village that got conquered, they'd take some captives they'd kill everybody. All the men
Hmm.
would either join the army or they kill them, but they would take captives up to these terrible prison camps up in the mountains. And if you went there, you're basically going to die, get raped, or get tortured to death over time, right? So this family got put in there, and I'm reading, I'm like, oh my God. And this family got put in there and had an 80-year-old grandpa down to like a 5-month kid and a few family members in between. So they all were in there. Terrible things started happening. And they said, we got to get out of here. They were going to escape. But to escape, you had to go through these rocky hills and we're in the middle of nowhere. But one day, grandpa goes, you go without me. And they said, we're not going without you, grandpa. You go or none of us are going. So eventually they all escaped in the book. They're telling the story. They get out, maybe get out an hour. All of a sudden, oh, the sirens, the dogs, and they start going faster. And then all of a sudden the grandpa leans against the rock. He's like, yeah, I can't go another step. You guys have to leave me here because if you don't, we're all going to die. And everyone reluctantly agreed to that and said, Grandpa, we love you and we love you. We'll see you in heaven. And they all started leaving. All of a sudden, the lady with the 5-month baby turns around and says, Grandpa, you can't stay here. It's your turn to carry the baby. And the book goes on to say how he proudly got up. They all successfully escaped
Hmm.
and they all lived. So I just want to say thank you to public safety and to law enforcement for what me as a civilian now knows you do for us every day, carrying that baby and taking care of us the way you do. You guys run into danger when we're running away. I'm getting emotional, man. So, Eric, thanks for what you do for a living. And we're here to help. It's me and, like I said, a retired commander from Gilbert PD, Kenny Buckland. I don't know if I told the podcast, he was dumb enough to become a town council member now, one term only. And so it's just us. And if anyone needs any help or you need to chat, because, Eric's intro, we're happy to help in any way possible.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rich. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Blue Grit Radio. As always, support this community by subscribing, giving us a 5-star review, and following, liking, and sharing posts on Blue Grit Wellness on Instagram. You can reach me there or email me at bluegritwellness@gmail.com. Be well and stay gritty.